obviously a little bit of time removed from the Auburn game, but obviously a great win over number 8 ranked team in the country at the time. But there was incredible atmosphere and great fan support. So to be 4-2 and 22 in the country at the halfway point, I thought there was a lot of positive momentum heading into our bye week for our kids. The focus of that week was to make sure that they recharged mentally, rehab physically, focused on their academics, and got a little bit of time to get around their families. 2 Sundays ago, we had a normal practice. Monday was a player's day off, and we did an exhaustive self-scout. Oh, your Steelers shirt. It's big time. On offense, defense, and special teams. Tuesday and Wednesday, we practiced with a focus on special teams, fundamentals, and technique, and then a non-travel team development, doing 7-on-7 and team drills there. Then on Tuesday and Wednesday morning, we worked ahead for our LSU game plan. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the players were off. Thursday and Friday, the coaches hit the road recruiting, and then during that 2-day time period, hit 108 schools, attended 20 games, and we're in 9 different states. So I thought our recruiting staff did a real good job putting the plan together. Got all of us out there, saw a lot of great players, saw a lot of great football, in state and our footprint in our national area. So we're real fired up about that for the recruiting part. And then this past Sunday, I went back to our normal practice with a focus on LSU because we had a little bit of time to work ahead. Going back to the Auburn week, just to revisit, because I don't think we had a chance to discuss it here as a group. Our offensive player of the game for Auburn was Nick Fitzgerald. The offensive scout of the game was running back Robert Rivers. The defensive co-players of the game were John Abram and Montez Sweat. The defensive scout team player of the week was Nathaniel Watson. The special teams player of the game was Chris Rayford. And the special teams scout of the week was Sherman Timms. Okay. 2 weeks ago, our student athletes of the week were Shamar Kilby-Lane and Marquise Spencer, and there were none for this past week because it was fall break. From an injury standpoint, making sure we're updated there. On the offensive side of the ball, Keith Mixon got a little bit of an ankle. He's day-to-day, but we're completely optimistic that he'll be ready to go for the game. On the defensive side of the ball, Stephen Adegoke, day-to-day with a lower body. Brian Cole, day-to-day with an upper body. Then Jamal Peters practiced on Sunday. He's day-to-day, but we're very confident with him as well. So those are our injuries for this week. Moving ahead to LSU, obviously led by head coach Ed Ogeron, 21-7 this time there, currently ranked number 5 in the country, coming off of a win, a very, very impressive win over number 2 ranked Georgia, 6-1 overall in the season, 3-1 in the SEC. LSU has won 21 straight home games in the month of October, so obviously that's very impressive. And under Coach Ogeron's guidance, they're 12-0 in SEC games when scoring at least 20 points, and this is their homecoming game. So will be a very raucous, intense, very exciting atmosphere. So we're fired up for that. On the offensive side of the ball, the coordinator who coaches the quarterbacks is Steve Emsinger, a mix of pro style and spread, averaging 32 points a game, 202 rushing, 202 passing, so very good balance. Quarterback Joe Burrow, transferred from Ohio State, doing a real nice job for him. Kind of real competitive guy, has a lot of moxie to him, a lot of confidence, playing with a lot of leadership. 1,415 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, and was really instrumental in that win over Georgia. The 2 running backs that they played the most, Nick Brossette, very quick and explosive, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, very patient with an excellent burst. And the wide receiver Justin Jefferson, versatile, blocks, screens, vertical pass game, makes a lot of plays on contested balls in the air, and obviously a very, very big, if you look at their front 5, physically imposing group. So a big challenge for our defense. On their defense, led by coordinator Dave Aranda, who in coaching circles is viewed as one of the top and brightest defensive minds in the country. They're a mix of 3 and 4 down, playing 1 high and 2 high zones, bringing good pressure there. Nationally ranked number 8 in turnovers, having created 15, and currently 17th in the country in scoring defense, allowing just about 17 points a game. I thought it was interesting that there's 7 teams in the SEC right now allowing less than 20 points a game, so that's pretty impressive. Other top players, number 90, Rashard Lawrence, 25 tackles, 3.5 for loss. Very quick, very strong hands. kind of very, physically imposing at the point of attack. The linebacker, number 6, Jacob Phillips, 43 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 interception, plays hard, always around the ball. Number 40, number 9, Grant Delpit, number 29, Greedy Williams. You go on down the line and you kind of look at some of the rankings that a lot of those guys are ranked at or near the top of the NFL draft evaluations for the upcoming year. So 6 and 40 at the linebacking core, 9 and 29 on the back end, and then obviously number 90. It's not limited to him. They're a very, very stout and physical defense. Special teams are coordinated by Greg McMahon. The accuracy limits some of the returns. On kickoff coverage, they're 88% touchbacks, 17 for 19 on field goals, 5 for 5 against Georgia, and a 42-yard game winner against Auburn. Top players, 36, Cole Tracy, the place kicker. Talked about him. Avery Akins, 41 of 47 touchbacks on kickoffs. And then Todd Harris is a core special teams player who shows up on a lot of their units, and he's doing a really, really nice job for them. Our keys to victory for the game, going to need to be able to control the controllable, which is our attitude, our effort, and our execution. Expecting a lot of crowd noise. We'll be working on that this week. Tough to simulate. We're going to do our best. Going to be their homecoming, kind of all those circumstances that are going to force a tremendous amount of focus from us. We need a great week of practice to earn the right to take the field with confidence. We'll have to play with fanatical effort and surgical precision to beat another top ranked team in the country. One play at a time in championship standard. And as always, explosive plays and turnover margin will play a huge factor in deciding the outcome of the game, as well as the run game, stopping the run, third down in the red zone. And you kind of look at some of the statistics and, comparing the two teams. Scoring offense, both teams averaging right around 32 points a game. Scoring defense, we're leading the country in the conference, giving up 12. They're right at about 17. We're leading the country, leading the conference in rushing offense. They're 6, averaging 200 a game. Rushing defense, we're 2nd, they're 5th. So both teams doing a real nice job there. Third down conversions, we're 2nd in the conference offensively. And then defensively, we're 3rd, giving up only 26%, and they're giving up right around 35%. So that's a real good challenge there. And then looking on the other side, turnover margin, they're 2nd in the conference. They are +9. We're 5th in the conference, +3. And then red zone offense, they're 1st and we're 3rd. So all those critical factors, it's a kind of interesting to see that we're kind of sitting right in the same area in all those statistical categories. So fired up for the challenge. Kids are excited. A lot of positive momentum, as I mentioned before, and a lot of great football in front of us. So, any questions?
Hey Joe, the penalties were kind of a pretty big issue the last 2 road games at Kentucky and at Kansas State and things. How mindful are y'all of that going into this game? Is that a point of emphasis? How much have you focused on something like that going into an atmosphere like you'll be in Saturday night?
Certainly the pre-snap penalties are the biggest focus there. I think that the 16 in Kentucky, I think we've got that pretty good and cleaned up, the past few weeks. We got 40 overall for the season, so we're trending in the right direction. But with the crowd noise and the atmosphere and the snap count and things like that, that's certainly something we're going to be mindful of. I think we've got the post-snap nonsense, addressed and cleaned up, and the penalties that we've seen have been more, between the whistles as opposed to before or after. So something we'll continue to work on.
Against Georgia, LSU went for it on 4th down a lot, at least significantly more than they normally do. In those situations, what did you see out of the offense there, and how does that kind of change how they go about things since they've shown they can move chains on 4th?
Yeah, I think they've got a lot of confidence in their run game right now. I think obviously both backs are on with great pad level. They fall forward, and I think it's really representative of how they're playing as a whole right now with a ton of confidence. And are playing to win rather than trying not to lose. So I think it's just something kind of like we went for it, a couple times there on 4th. If you want to show confidence in your kids and the ability to make a play, and I think Coach O and their team are playing with that kind of confidence right now.
Mississippi State had a lot of success against LSU last year. Did you and your staff look at that and take anything from that film to enter into your game plan for this week?
Yeah, I mean, we always look at it because of personnel matchups and things like that. Kind of go back. in the same way we look at it with the, you know, that it was 35-7, 37-7 last year. You kind of take it all with a grain of salt because it's a different year and a different team. Just like, you know, looking at the Auburn game from last year was, you know, 49-10 in the wrong direction. So certainly from a schematic standpoint, is there anything that we can do that's, you know, a positive factor for our game plan, but probably more personnel than anything.
Defense, those guys are really talented, but they've had a lot of different defensive coordinators over the years. What's meshed so well with Coach Shoup and those guys to allow them to be so effective so long?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of experience. You know, a lot of guys on that side of the ball that have played, you know, a bunch of snaps at a high level. I think we've got a lot of talent, and I think Coach Shoup and his staff have done a good job putting a plan in place for them to be successful and, you know, making good calls at critical times in the game.
On those same lines, one player in particular, Kobe Jones, what has his development been on the defensive side? He was kind of Johnny on the spot, getting that football in the end zone.
He sure was. I think Kobe's a guy that, you know, Coach Baker and the defensive staff are really excited about, because not only does he possess a lot of physical tools that are required to be successful in this conference and at this level, but he's a student of the game, high IQ, you know, tremendous fundamentals and technique, and always does it the way Coach Baker, you know, instructs him to do so. So he very rarely finds himself in the wrong position, you know, and making an effort play like that. You know, I think it speaks volumes for what Kobe's done, you know, kind of biding his time behind some very, very talented guys, but he's got a very bright future.
You've never gone up against Dave Miranda, have you?
I've gone up against his style of defense. He left Wisconsin the year before we played them in the Big Ten championship game. I don't think they changed scheme very much, but I guess to answer your question, no, I'm not called plays.
Yeah, I mean, what about his scheme stands out and makes him different? Because he's proven that he doesn't depend on players. He's got a good scheme to back it up.
No, I think a thing that a lot of you know, top-notch defensive coordinators across the country, you know, like Dave Miranda, in their schemes is they understand how an offense is attempting to attack them and why, and works to take those things away, but at the same time combines that with a bunch of aggressiveness where they're attempting to force the hand of the offense. So they know, you know, based on what they run, how people are going to attack them, and have a bunch of good counter punches of, you know, if they're going to do this, this is what we go to. So I'd say it's a combination of aggressiveness, scheme, and in-game adjustments that he does a really, really nice job of.
There's a lore about playing in Death Valley on a Saturday night. What have you heard about that? What are you expecting for your first trip down there? I'm assuming it's your first trip.
Yeah. I'm excited they got the line markers marked off every 5 yards. I think that's pretty cool. You don't see that very often. They got a tiger down there. That's pretty neat. But I hear it. I mean, to me more than anything, you know, this is, you know, the great thing about college football is the passion of the fan bases, particularly in this conference. And I hear, you know, they're as good as any, and they get fired up and they get after you, and you know, they're into the game, and they're gonna make it a challenging atmosphere. So that's, you know, I think that's what things I'm most excited for.
Anything else?
Just about the conference in general, Joe, you halfway through your first season here, I know, but what things in this conference have impressed you so far, the 3 games you played, and maybe some of the observations you've had, and maybe some of the other games you've been watching?
Yeah, everything has impressed me. It's kind of been as advertised. You talk about, you know, 2 things you're probably sick of hearing me saying. It's maybe not, but it's a line of scrimmage football league, and the margin of error is slim. And I think when you look at the results on a weekly basis, and maybe not the wins and losses as much as the point differential in the games, that I think there's tremendous parity in this league. That on a weekly basis, if you don't prepare well and you don't come out and play hard and you don't execute at the highest level, you know, that any team can upset any team or beat any team. And I think that, you know, that's shown across the board for 6 weeks. So you better be on your A game. There are no off weeks. That every team can come out on a given Saturday and you know, upset anybody.
Guard to guard, your offensive line is probably as good as anybody's in the nation. How much of that is individual skill at each position, or do they work particularly well together?
Yeah, I think, you know, you have a center like Elton, and you know, he's able to make the calls and kind of get everyone on the same page. You know, and you got Daryl, and you got Dion, and the other guys are subbed in through there. I think the core, you know, kind of sets the tone, and I think those guys have done a great job with their physicality and, you know, mentality, and, you know, particularly, you know, last week, setting the tone for the game.
All right.
Sir?
Thank you.
All right, appreciate you guys. Have a great week. Y'all safe.